And welcome to the Tairāwhiti Resource Management Plan Review. Councillor Wharehinga will open with Karakia for us.
Me noi tātou ki whānei. E o ngā mano tēnei te whakamui mea tutuki a koe mo tēnei uhu nā mātou. Arehina mai kau ki tika ki kupuni a mātou. O tuku mai tō wairua tapu. Manaki, hei awhi hei tiake. Nei mātou e tuohu nei mui tuaruaru. Ka tuku I tēnei inoi I rungi I te ngoto mātou kai whakora I Ukraiti.
Amen. Thank you for that. Warm welcome to our committee members and councillors joining us today. Warm welcome to Councillor Gregory as well as Ryan, Jean and the lovely Sarah. Welcome Sarah. And I just put in an apology for Alan for lateness. He will join us later. So any other is the so Aubrey is an apology and Commissioner Allen for lateness. I'll do that. Seconded by Councillor Alder. All in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Good morning, everyone. Let us quickly go. Any declarations of interest this morning? Done. Go to page 4 and take a look at our minutes. Sarah, would you like to say something? The floor is yours.
Yeah, Madam Chair, not a declaration of interest, but in a belts and braces approach, and I have emailed this through to Jocelyn Allen. I just wanted to advise that I've taken up a permanent employment role with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development as their Regional Director for Waikato, Western and Eastern Bay of Plenty and Tauranga. But I have clarified that I can continue supporting the TRMP. My role is operational and place-based, so has nothing to do with Tairāwhiti. I'm not involved in any national policy or regulations, and I won't be engaging with HUD, with GDC on HUD's behalf. So no actual conflict to manage, but I just wanted to raise it.
Well, congratulations on that. Fantastic. And even more expertise coming our way. That's how I look at it. Thank you for that, Sarah. So, councillors, I'm going to take you to page 4, where we have our minutes, and we also have our confidential minutes because on page 6, because whoever's computer is making noises, please kill it off. And we've got our public excluded minutes on page 12.
I move.
Both sets. Moved by Councillor Wharehinga, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. I just wanted to note, under apologies, that I will be leaving at 12 to go to a tangi. So I think we'll be way finished by then. I just wanted to let you know that if I am going, and you'll also have to go, Councillor Wharehinga will take over. But my gut feeling is that we'll hoof it out of here before 11. Famous last words. I am taking everyone to page 15, which is a huge, I just brought this in from customer service. So everyone can just get an understanding of the huge amount of work that our GDC team has done. So I do want to acknowledge Jocelyn, Nadine, the Vision, Shane, Ian, Charlotte, everyone, Carrie, everyone, Desiree who works on this. Thank you so much for the huge amount of work. I also want to acknowledge that there are uncertainties as well with legislation passing through the House, how we adapt to that, how we make sure we are fit for purpose, sharp and smart to be in step with the government as well, because at the end of the day, we walk alongside them. So I'm going to hand over to you, Jocelyn. It is a discussion for us to have, and councillors, you will see on page 16 that there are 3 recommendations there.
Your Worship, just a thought, is there any sense in doing the agenda in the other order, doing the update on resource management reform announcements first?
It wouldn't have an impact on this.
An impact on it?
There's quite a bit of information inside the first paper around Minister Bishop's announcement on the 16th of July.
That piece is covered in there.
Okay.
Okay, I'll hand over to the team right next to me.
Fantastic. Thank you through your worship. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be introducing this paper, and shortly I'll hand over to its author, Shane McGee, and his team have done an incredible amount of work for that. Thank you. And so the report in front of you provides this committee with the final draft provisions for the urban plan change, and it seeks this committee's endorsement of its content, including any requested amendments, for recommendation of public notification by council in accordance with Clause 5 of the first schedule of the Act. I will hand over to Shane, who will step you through a bit of the chronology and also how this aligns with the future national direction. So thank you, great report.
Thank you. Thank you. Where to start? This isn't in my notes, but I was reminded yesterday when I was talking with Charlotte that we actually started on this plan change about 12 months ago, and we think the sweet spot might be 18 months, so we're actually well inside the sweet spot. So we're really pleased to get where we've got to at this point, recognising the challenges and the changes we've had on the way. So as usual, I'll take the report as read, although I do think it would be helpful to note a couple of things at the starting point. Firstly, the attachment, which I do apologise, was 1,600 pages long, and that's why I spoke with Democratic Services and said we don't want to print this. This is not something we want to do. There was an error in there that one of the attachments included the old versions, and so that was corrected by Democratic Services through that process, so hopefully that went well. Also, the Section 32 report that was sent with it and the attachments, Section 3.2 of that report wasn't complete in that. The commissioners, particularly Commissioner Allen, said that we needed that to be complete for this committee. That was completed late yesterday and is being tabled now. So what I've tabled is just the extract that was added, which is Section 3.2, and that was about consultation. The second attachment is actually an appendix that refers to, which is now Appendix 14 to the Section 32 report. So those two pieces of information have been tabled today because they are in addition to what was sent out with the agenda and the attachment. In terms of the recommendation, I think Jocelyn has gone through the recommendations, and those are for us to consider this final draft and take any comments from you all, and then to also talk about and to endorse the plan change and the Section 32 to Council for public notification. There are a number of major changes that have been made since you saw the last version, and I think that would be helpful as we start the discussion if we were to go through them. And those are some additions to the general residential chapter and the medium density residential chapter that introduce quite significant changes in terms of what they're permitting. And they were as a result of the economic and yield assessment that we commissioned from Market Economics. And they are quite confronting rules, and even to me as an experienced planner, they were those that, and I think that's worth discussing. And also Vivshan's here, his focus was on the feedback we received from the 4A process, which we were really, really pleased to get in the end. We note the comments we got from the committee right through the months that there was no content that related to enabling Māori housing, and we were belligerent, I suppose, in saying we didn't want to introduce it ourselves because we wanted to get that from our treaty partners. And the 4A process gave us something, albeit from one of the iwi groups and then some endorsement from one of the others. That's a major step on, and I think that's worth discussing, particularly in relation to the proposal to have an NES for Papakāinga and how this might differ from it. I guess the additional factors are also the plan stop legislation. In the report, it talks about the announcement that was made in July last month it was, so just under a month ago. In the report, it talks about Minister Bishop making it clear that there was likely to be an exemption in the legislation that spoke to enabling housing that was consistent with the government's policy. The legislation came out yesterday in the afternoon. There is no specific comment, there is no specific section that actually says the exemption will be considered favourably on the basis of housing. There are still two factors that we believe this plan change will meet, and so we're still recommending that this committee recommend to council to apply for an exemption from the plan stop process. And that's all. Thank you.
So just to clarify before I open the floor, is we want to ask, the government has said to us, stop work because the RMA is going to change. We are not sure what readings still need to go through the House. What we are saying is we hear you. This is a piece of work in regards to our urban planning, our housing, our development of our CBD, those areas, that we would like you to give us exemption to carry on with that piece of work. It's not captured by one of the automatic exemptions that the Minister has raised, so we have to specifically ask the Minister. If the Minister says no, it is no. If the Minister says yes, let's go, then we can carry on this piece of work. Is my assumption correct? So it will be months and months and months and months away before we get that answer anyway. Correct?
Yes.
Good. Floor is open.
Just
Yes, please.
Just to add to that, sorry, I meant to mention it. What was in the legislation yesterday is that if we have a draft plan ready to go, then that would be something that would be considered favourably.
And also, we do have a draft plan,
we do have a draft
shovel
plan
ready to go.
So yes, shovel ready. And the other comment was that if we don't get the exemption from the plan stop and the new legislation comes in, it's likely to be 3 more years before we would actually be able to have enabling housing rules, and that is the basis on which we would put the argument to government that if you hold this up, you're holding up exactly what you wanted us to do, so just let us carry on doing it.
Because we do need to take into account that our planning rules are not fit for purpose. People are frustrated with what we ask them to do or don't allow to do or allow on an ad hoc basis. So thank you for that. I am going to open the floor. Councillor Wharehinga, you go first.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm comfortable with where we're at in regards to this entire process and these 1,600 pages of documents. My thing is around specifically that 3B part, and it would be really great if when we do signal this to the Minister that we really highlight the parts that align with Minister Bishop's August announcement. Appreciate that you've spoken about the plans that are ready to go. There's a focus on those kinds of things. It'll be really great if how we're having the conversation with the government is about our common alignment. You know, our common alignment to wanting to have sensible plans that meet the needs of the community, which we've heard locally and regionally for a long time, and I'm sure the government has heard from our region as well in terms of our planning. The alignment in regards to housing people, you know, there's really strong alignment with what we're doing moving forward. A recognition for also would be great too if we provided that recognition of the rationale around the plan stop stuff, you know, because they're nationally sensitive reasons why they've said no, we can't do these plans, but there's alignment with what we have here. And if we're able to speak from the alignment thing rather than going, hey, if you don't approve this, then you undermine the thing you guys want to do. You know, like that's why I keep talking about. If there's some congruence here, just let's highlight the congruence. Let's highlight how this is a win regionally and it's a win for central government as well, in order for us, because I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that it's on us to demonstrate that without having to compel the minister or his officials to read 1,600 documents and then understand that, or 1,600 pages of documents and then understand it for themselves. So I'm comfortable with where we are, and there's been a lot of work. That's one of the things for me is endorsement of staff for all of this hard work that's gone on. But that's my key thing in regards to the recommendation. And on that note, Your Worship, I was just about to call you your Honourable Minister, your Minister.
Keep on going. I'm lapping it up.
I'm happy to move these, but yeah, just with that really, that key part around 3B, like that demonstrating that strong alignment between us regionally and their wants.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hinga. Welcome, Alan. Lovely to see you. We're sorry that your flights and everything were interrupted, but we're still delighted to see your lovely face on screen. Welcome. We have just opened the paper on page 15. We are just looking at the recommendations on page 16. So the floor is open for anyone to discuss. If there's general agreement that we should be asking the Minister and then see where we go from there, Kapai, you don't need to, not everyone have to speak. I'm just giving everyone the opportunity. Alan, I'm going to go to you next. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Morena. Yes, as it's just been stated, I also am in support of the plan change moving forward for the reasons set out, and I think it's quite important that we just recognise, the plan is out of date, it's quite old. What we're proposing to do is in alignment with where the government is seeking that direction. And in terms of the detail, the only matter I think there's two matters I raised with Shane and the team yesterday. One was to ensure that we did have particular regard to the iwi advice, that we did go through that step by step and confirm the response from the staff. And the second, that I just had lost track of where the master plans were at and how they fitted in with the plan change. So those were the only two matters that I picked up in my readings. Otherwise, I'm in support of the plan change being moved forward. Thank you, Your Worship.
Any other questions or queries? Councillor Alder.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just when I first read this, I was right behind the fast track. I couldn't see any reason behind not going quickly with it. And then when I got to the Māori engagement part, it was really disappointing, I think, to see that we've left them behind. And a lot of their comments aspirations, we can fit to the plan existing, but there's a lot of purple in their list. And that worries me a bit, that are we going to go fast in the wrong direction, which is not progress? And are we going to have to come back and cover too much track? One question, by getting this thing out and on the ground quickly, is it going to improve the speed at which a builder can get consent, for example?
Yes.
It will.
Great answer.
Sorry, the rules that are proposing now, I believe the developers will be delighted with.
Okay.
The permitted activity status, particularly for adjoined dwellings, are in line with the medium density residential standards, and will be able to, while some may still require consent if they want to go right to the nth degree, many will be able to develop without requiring resource consents at all.
Right. And the second question, it's a sort of a 1,600-page document, although we might have lost 300.
Yeah, we have.
So it's a 1,300-page document. Is it likely that the government's alterations will make that a smaller, more readable document?
Could do. In terms of the document, I stated a couple of pages with adding that section 3.2, but in effect, you can read 60 pages and understand what the plan change is about. The rest of the pages are the evidence base that lead up to the conclusions that are reached in the plan itself. So most people wouldn't read the 1,300 pages, they would read the 60 pages and then read the specific appendix that they were interested in to determine why the conclusion was reached on that.
Okay, thank you. So no, I'm behind it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Charlotte, I'm just going to go to Jean first because I want Jean also to lean into the iwi consultation that Councillor Alder asked about. And then we go to Charlotte, who wants to talk to us to faster consents. Great. Jean, the floor is yours, mate.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just in response to the comment made, Councillor Order, in terms of us leaving iwi behind, I think this committee and all the papers that have been deliberated over probably in the last 12 to 18 months regarding all aspects of TRMP, but in this instance, the kaupapa in front of us today, there's been a huge amount of work that's gone into bringing our partners, iwi, hapu, to the table in regards to this discussion. I don't necessarily feel in a public forum it's accurate just to let lie the assumption that we've left iwi behind, when in actual fact I think the team, Shane, Vivishin, with the support of the Māori Partnerships team, have tried really hard to actually have iwi partners, hapu, ahead of the game, more so than being left behind. And again, the papers that this committee's deliberated over the last 12 to 18 months, those efforts are absolutely there. I do draw attention to the comment Shane made earlier in regards to feedback from Te Aitanga Maha ki Ngāti Onioni in particular, being able to really strengthen and bolster some of the gaps in the plan that were identified by Commissioner Matheson in earlier meetings. And while it's always a work in progress, I just feel it's correct that we, for public record, actually acknowledge that we've tried to actually keep iwi ahead of or in step with, as opposed to leaving them behind. Kia ora tātou.
Charlotte, the floor is yours. Thank you, Jean.
I just wanted to add two clarifications around builders getting faster consents and around the large document. So in terms of getting faster consents or the speedy consents, it only relates to the resource consents. Since we're sitting here, we also have the building consents, and most of that's determined through the Building Act, and we have very little control over that. And then the second run around the document, we don't just put out a 1,600-page document, of course. We have like a variety of consultation materials and tools and things that we use as well, because some of this is really technical and it is quite hard to consume, and putting just out a massive document is not going to engage our community. So just those two clarifications.
Because we also need to take into account when we talk to our community and try and make it in a digestible form that people understand it, we still need detailed information in the back room to run a multi-billion-dollar business. You can't just run the business on a 5-page. So this is not really for the public as such to digest, but how we package that up in an understandable way to make it clear that what we are doing is there to help. I think that is really important. Any other questions? Councillor Foster, the floor is yours.
Just a couple of questions. We're just following on from Councillor Alder's question about speed for resource consent. So when it comes to building consent, is the building community or building industry, has that endorsed a lot of the new plan changes that we're encouraging or that we're now working on?
And be around we have done engagement.
Yeah, we've engaged and they are happy with the direction we're going in. And we haven't put out the most recent rules that we've put in and had any further engagement because it's too close. It's too late in the piece to do that. But my reading of it will be that they'll be significantly surprised at how enabling they are.
Yeah. Okay, oh, that's good.
Sorry, just to add to that, what we did was we road tested the rules that are proposed through this version with what had been applied for previously and needed resource consents, and some of them needed notified resource consents. If they were in the medium density residential zone today, they would have been able to go through without any consent whatsoever.
Has there been a relaxing of contaminated soils or lands or anything, or has that been, has there been a focus on that?
No, there has no focus whatsoever on that. That's still one of the matters that it is a constraining matter that will always need to be dealt with unless the government change the national policy, the EDS for contaminated soils, which is what we, and I haven't seen anything about them reviewing that at this stage, but that's really the constraining factor in terms of development, us having to apply that NES.
The other thing is, with the plan, the master plans that we've got, when will they be involved with our whole urban plan?
Probably worth Vivian answering that one, and also answering Commissioner Allen's question in relation to where they fit in with the plan change now.
Kia ora tātou. I guess to that question, and thanks Shane, also referring to Commissioner Matheson with regards to this. We did bring through a paper on the 29th of May where there was a decision to allow more time for the master plans to be developed, and this is to support further tangata whenua engagement. So we're looking at a bit of a longer timeline just to allow that to occur quite well, but also quite cognizant of the period we have in the coming months with the plan change and other work as well. So how that's supposed to be incorporated into the plan as well is once completed, we see them as informing parts of the plan as opposed to just being inserted as part of the plan, if that makes sense. So there may be particular areas that we zone in on the master plans, which may help us develop some of these zones in terms of the rules with greater specificity that comes out of that process. So that's where those are sitting at the moment.
Just in addition to that, the master plans were going along at the same stage as and so there was often a perception that the master plans were actually formally part of the plan change. They were never part of the plan change, but we consulted on them, and if there was any feedback that was received that could go into the plan change at this stage, that would be incorporated. But in the end, the master plans are taking longer, and any changes, any major changes that you would make to the TRNP plan would be made in the next phase to actually incorporate those into it once the master plans are completed.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to quickly go to Charlotte, Sarah, and then I come to Sarah and then Alan. So Charlotte, you go first.
No, that's all good. Shane just said what I was about to say.
So then we go to Sarah, and after Sarah, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I support all the recs in this paper, and I would join in congratulating the team. Massive effort. And the appendices and the number of pages is just testament to the amount of effort and complexity. So well done. A very small comment around the urban design guide. I'm really pleased to see that it now has statutory weight. You know, it's linked in. But I'd keep an eye on that through the hearings. If the way it's given weight isn't sufficient to get the outcomes that the community wants, as demonstrated through the hearings, you might need to strengthen that reference, bring it directly into a rule rather than referring to it as an appendix, but that's getting into the detail. I also think Alan is going to make a comment about the Māori Housing Design Guide, so I will not steal his thunder. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you, Sarah. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two things. I just wanted to clarify with the master plans, in my understanding of those, that they have really guided the location of zones. And I'm thinking in particular Kaiti, where the zoning for residential development has changed significantly. So they've had that purpose, even if they're sitting outside the plan change at this stage. Would that be fair to say, Shane?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's good. The issue about the Māori housing, that's just a matter I've raised in terms of when we get to looking at that iwi advice. So perhaps we'll just pick that up as we step through each of those individual bits of advice. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Alan. Thank Anyone wants to add anything? Nadine, did you wanted to add something?
No, just through your worship, just a mammoth piece of work over a very, very long time. So very hopeful that the Minister will look favourably on giving us an exemption. And just want to commend the team for the hard mahi.
And we will be writing to Minister Bishop. Yes. Yes. Thank you. So I have a mover. Charlotte, did you want to say something?
Just so you're aware, the minister that gives the exemptions isn't Minister Bishop, it's Minister Penny Simmons. However, as part of, I guess, a broader effective lobbying active advocacy approach, would write to both.
Good. And I have spent some time with her, so we do know her well. Not that I'm implying anything, I'm just saying we do have a working relationship with her. So I have a mover in Councillor Wharehinga, seconder in Councillor Foster.
I believe Commissioner Alan wanted to go through the response to the 4A process.
Oh yes, so let's do that before we pass the paper. Thank you. Apologies, Alan. I'm a little bit galloping through. Okay. Vishen or Shane, who is going to lead that?
It's up to you. Sorry, I can't see you.
Alan, do you want to lead us through it?
If you wanted to lead it, whether you wanted to go through it. I see you've sent us a summary of where you agree and where you disagree. Whether you thought it was necessary to go through it point by point, or whether it's possible just to go through the parts where, particularly where you talked about the Urban Design Guide and the Maori Housing Design Guide.
I'm through you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm happy to do that. You'll see the comments I've made. I was generally noting that agreement with the council officer response all the way through. There were just a couple of matters I raised that perhaps we just need to talk about. One was item 3 under the general residential zone, which was about cultural design. And just wanting to make a note in that residential urban design guide that the Maori housing guidance section, that a Maori housing design guide is being developed with iwi, and that will be brought forward later on. So I thought it would be helpful just to make that note, just to make it clear that Māori housing guidance within the residential urban design guide is not the end. It's a step, and there's another step coming forward more specifically. And I just wanted to query there for officers, is there any need to change policies or rules when that future Māori housing design guide is developed, or will we need to be looking at a plan change or a variation to get that incorporated? So that was the only additional comment that I wanted to make in respect to that matter. And maybe we'll just get some comment from Shane and the team now on that.
We think, so we're in agreement, Alan, that, Commissioner Allen, that what we'll do is have a look at that particular reference to the residential urban design guide, and make reference to the proposed Māori housing guidance to make sure that we don't need a plan change, so that once it is actually developed, it is taken into account.
Excellent. Thank you, Shane. The next matter was item 7 under that general residential zone about enabling marae and kura. And again, I agree with the officer response. And I just thought it'd be helpful to note some additional reasons in there. The future where we may be looking at a kāinga nohanga, or I saw it referred to as a kāinga pā zone, that's for future work, and that's, as the officer said, is outside of that. Mainly because that will need some new policy development and criteria to help guide where some of those non-residential type activities might go and the scale of them. So that was just an additional comment in that part. That also applies to item 1 under the medium density residential zone as well. Same comment. Otherwise, I agree with all of the council officer responses, and that is my consideration of having particular regard to the iwi advice, which I found very helpful and has obviously changed the response from council officers as they've gone along. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you so much for that. Anything else, councillors? Again, I don't want, because we've only discussed it for 40 minutes, and if you look at the amount of work, this has been probably, Nadine, the whole time you've been the CEO, been a work in action. This is we should not forget the huge journey we have been on, taking some steps forward, some steps sideways, taking the odd punch, giving the odd punch. I think we should pause here and just again congratulate the team for the huge amount of work. There's still a lot of work ahead of us. We don't know what the Minister will say or won't say, so there's also a lot of uncertainty. But what I can say hand on heart from the GDC, we have done everything we can to be fight fit and to take this forward. So on behalf of councillors, also to your team, thank you very much. I have a mover in Councillor Wharehinga, seconder in Councillor Foster. All in favour? Aye. Contrary?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Sarah. Right, I feel like doing it. Well done.
Congratulations all.
Yes. Okay, so next we are moving to a piece which, thank you, Shane, thank you, Vivian, thank you, Desiree, Carrie, Charlotte, Ian, everyone who helps there. Next, we're going to have a talk which some councillors have heard before. I have heard it a few times. It is good for us to keep on talking about this because there are constant changes in how the RMA is being worked through by the government and what will happen. We've seen uncertain times and we need to brace ourselves because there are more uncertain times, but all we can do is be as ready as possible. So I'm going to hand over to you, Charlotte and Jocelyn, to take the committee through that last paper, just letting us know what is the lie of the land, how do we make sure the GDC is ready when we should be ready, but also that we don't waste time on stuff that we don't have to do because it might not align with what the government want. That is just as important a part for me. Kapai? Thank you.
Your Worship, I'm actually going to hand straight over to this paper's author, Charlotte, who's done a really, really great job in stepping this up for us. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you. So as Shane mentioned in his paper, we just got the amendment paper that has the draft legislation yesterday, so we've not, the paper and the content that's in this paper was at the time the agenda was published, and we have some new information. So in terms of that new information, Shane's kind of mentioned what it means in terms of the urban plan change scope, and we just need to work through what it might mean for the forestry plan change exemption that council had previously asked us to go for through the previous prohibition around just freshwater planning instruments rather than all planning instruments. So we've not yet gone through that piece of work, but we'll flick out maybe a bit of a briefing note to all councillors once we
Yes, please.
that would be useful. So really the purpose of this report was to provide a bit of an update post the workshop we had at the end of the committee in June, the new plan stop announcement that came out, post talking about the RPS in particular, and I think we had also promised that we would bring a bit of an update overall around the program and some thoughts around how we might need to pivot or slightly adjust the program to align a bit better with some of just the national direction changes. However, subsequent to that workshop, this latter plan stop policy came out from the government. So what we are currently working on as a team is looking across the broader program and what was planned for the full 8 years in terms of where we have key technical or engagement knowledge gaps on particular domain topics. For example, like in the coastal space is one, to help inform what we might need to do to be really ready as a region to transition into a new system and potentially be in a position under this new system where we need to do 2 new types of plans within maybe a 24-month period. So it's going to be quite a rapid transition is what's been signalled. Obviously we've got elections next year, national elections next year, so this is under the assumption that it'll be the same policy direction from October next year as well. So yeah, it is a little bit of an uncertain time, and we're just using our best crystal ball that we've kind of got. There is a lot of unknowns, and kind of adapting and updating our approach as we get more information. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at as a team, and just wanted to give you a bit of an update and be clear about what we were doing and where we were at based on what we knew.
Thank you. Councillors, the floor is yours. It is as straightforward as mud. As you can see, it is. All I'm asking of staff is that we are fight fit and ready when we hear stuff. And I get the feeling that the work that's happening is that you are very cautious, also to the fact that there are changes indicated. But again, those changes can change next October or not. So I just want reassurance from Nadine and you, Jocelyn, that we are not doing what we shouldn't be doing, but that we are not leaving stuff behind, that when all the other regions then run to the finish line, we are limping along with our legs tied together. I just don't want that. But I do get assurance. I do feel that you have the best take on a very uncertain situation. Any councillors have some questions that you would like clarification on? Councillor Foster.
Yeah, you mentioned it before, but is there any, has there been any kind of notification from government to say that they're working on contaminated soils?
No. Their focus areas were in those 4 packages. We've submitted on 3, and then the housing growth one that closes in the next couple of days. And none of those really tackled contaminated soils. And through their 3-phase program, their next priority is the new system, as opposed to doing any further amendments to the existing system and the existing national direction. And my understanding is through the development of the new system that there will obviously be a new national direction element to that with updates through that. That may result in some updates to what we currently have. It may not. It's very unclear at the moment on that particular. And there's other examples like air quality and other matters that haven't been reviewed in quite some time. So it's contaminated soils is not alone, and not being
mentioned as a bugbear of a lot of people when they're doing building.
Anyone else wants to ask a question? Councillor Alder.
Yeah, a bit of a housekeeping thing really, but on page 57, point 17 and 18, both have highlighted involved reports, which I wanted to reference. And it's nice when you can click on it and go take them straight to the report.
Okay.
And even then perhaps we could do with the training session, or the public might like to know, how do we access that list of reports? Anyway, I actually tried to do a search for those reports, and I couldn't find them through a search through the system.
On the website?
I didn't go to the official website, I did it through my...
They wouldn't be on Docs on Tap.
It's all right. Me and Teddy can put together some notes on that, but thank you for your point. We do normally put the links to the agendas with the reports. I just ran out of time because I was quickly doing this.
If you can follow that up in just about 5 seconds. Councillor Parata.
Thank you for the update, and just acknowledge all of the work that goes into this space, and also how often we have to pivot and anticipate the changes. The thing I'm concerned about is, I'm not concerned about, yes, concerned, page 55, it's point 7 about the treaty principles. I know that we have very little control over this. I was just wondering if there's any way council can consider, mitigate, plan for the fact that the treaty principles will be upheld. Is there any way that we can put effort and time into what happens if it stays? Because the concern is that we disregard the principles of the treaty, and that may or may not happen. But the impact of that for our region is significant, considering the makeup of our demographic and our population. So,
Yeah, I can answer that. So I guess there's sort of two ways. As the new system is being developed, the key way that we can advocate in that space, what we would like to see as a region, is through our submissions to government or any working group staff are on as well. So we haven't yet seen any draft material of what the new system will look like, other than sort of high level principles and that blueprint in the government response. So that's one way, I guess, over the next 18 months around that particular point. And then I guess second, once there is clarity on what the new system is and what the parameters are within it, there will still be regionally applied lenses, etc., to the planning and decisions being made. We may have new parameters different to what we have currently, and so I guess as a region we'll have to work through how we do that best for us and the way that we can or need to. So that's my high level 2 answers to that at this point. Thank you so much.
Ian?
I just think that everyone should be aware of de facto plan changes that are going to be happening as the Minister pushes changes in the Building Act. You can put a shed 1 metre off the boundary, 4 metres high, and cut recession planes, and then you'll get neighbours' complaints, and it just seems to be very little concern about resource management criteria when they're changing all the stuff they're changing in the Building Act, and it's going to be a headache for the council and for our compliance teams.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Any more questions of our plan specialists? Sarah.
Thanks, Your Worship. Not a question for the plan specialist, but I just note the aspects of planning processes that aren't on stop, private plan changes and resource consent applications and fast track, obviously. So I completely endorse the recs in this paper around the TRMP work program and the discussions we've had previously, but I think a bit of an eye to the horizon with other changes to your landscape that can happen because of processes that aren't paused. I'm not sure the consequences of that have been properly thought out, but that's all I'll say there. And it really falls to councils to keep a finger on the pulse and communicate to the ministry and the minister if anything is not going the way you think they would expect it to.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I'm happy to move. This was a noting paper just to keep us abreast. Councillors, if you have any questions as we go forward and you hear announcements in the media about changes or what Ian just referred to as the government make different announcements about changes that you might feel you're not across, Jocelyn and the team are more than happy to answer that. So please feel free to reach out and say, can we get a bit of information on this? But thank you. This is probably the 3rd time, we've had the opportunity to talk about this. So I'm happy to move this paper. Seconded by Councillor Wharehinga. All in favour? Aye. 1-3 carried. I just want to give myself a mayoral certificate for chairing the meeting in 55 minutes. Thank you so much together, and then we get on with our day. So I now formally close this meeting.